Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to break down an idea so powerful, it literally built the modern world, the corporation. And it all started, as these things often do, with a seemingly impossible problem. Okay, so let's start with a problem, a really big one from history. Imagine you have a plan for a massive, world-changing venture. We're talking fleets of ships sailing across the globe, but it is incredibly expensive and insanely risky. It's way, way beyond what any single person or even a handful of rich people could ever afford. So how do you get a project like that off the ground?
And look, this wasn't just some thought experiment. This was the exact challenge staring people like the Dutch East India Company right in the face back in the 1600s. They had this vision of global trade, but the money needed up front was just staggering. And the risk? I mean, there was a very, very real chance those ships, along with every penny invested in them, could just end up at the bottom of the ocean. They had to find a new way to fund these crazy, high-risk, high-reward expeditions.
And the solution they came up with? Well, it was genius. It was elegant. They invented the share of stock, a concept so simple but so powerful that it would go on to completely reshape business and finance for centuries to come.
So what exactly is a stock, or a share? The easiest way to think about it is like a pizza. The entire company is the pizza, and each share is just one slice. It's a legal document, a claim that says, hey, I own a piece of this. How much you own is just a question of how many slices you have compared to the total number of slices out there. It was just a brilliant way to take a huge, expensive thing and chop it up into tiny, affordable pieces that almost anyone could buy into. Now, owning that slice of the pie, it's not just for show. It comes with some very real fundamental rights. First up is ownership. You have a legal claim on everything the company owns. Its buildings, its patents, its cash in the bank. Second, you have a right to the profits. If the company makes money, you are entitled to your share of it, which often gets paid out as something called a dividend. And third, you get a voice. You actually have the right to vote on big company decisions, like who gets to be on the board of directors.
Okay, but wait, there was still a massive problem. Even with the promise of future profits, why would you risk your money on some dangerous voyage? What happens if the ship sinks and the whole company goes bankrupt? Just selling shares wasn't going to cut it. The real breakthrough, the absolute masterstroke, was creating a kind of legal shield to protect the people buying those shares. And this led to what is arguably the single most powerful and important concept in the entire history of business, an idea that really, truly unlocked the power of modern capitalism. Limited liability. These two words. That's it. This is the legal shield, the corporate armor that changed everything. This is the absolute game changer. Let me show you just how big a deal this is. Without this shield, if you're a small business owner, a sole proprietor, well, you are the business. If it fails and racks up a ton of debt, creditors can come after your house, your car, your personal savings, everything. But with a corporation, nope. The business is legally treated as a separate person. You, the owner, are shielded. The absolute most you can possibly lose is the money you put in. Your personal stuff is safe. And that separation, that is the whole point. By building this protective wall, it gives people the confidence to take calculated risks, to pour their money into new, ambitious, and sometimes crazy ideas. I mean, think about it. Without limited liability, who would be willing to fund the next big thing? Our entire economy would probably grind to a halt. Okay, so we've figured out how to get the money and how to protect the investors. Great, but that creates a whole new headache. If a company has thousands, maybe even millions of different owners, who's actually in charge? Who's running the day-to-day? Well, this problem led to a pretty clear power structure. The system that developed works a lot like a representative democracy. Right at the bottom, you have the shareholders. They're the citizens, the actual owners. But since they can't all run the company themselves, they elect a board of directors to be their representatives, kind of like a city council. That board then hires the professionals, the management team, led by a CEO, who are responsible for running the company day in and day out. And the goal of this entire chain of command? To make sure the company is being run in the best interests of the people who own it. So we have this structure down, but how does this whole machine get its fuel? Let's talk about the money. How does capital actually get into the company? And, just as important, how do the investors who provide that capital get paid back? One of the most direct ways investors see a return is something called a dividend. You can think of it as a little thank you check from the company for being an owner. When the business is doing well and has profits left over, the board can decide to share some of that cash directly with its shareholders. But, not every company does this.
And this is where you see two totally different philosophies at play. On one side, you've got the payout strategy. Think about big, stable companies like Coca-Cola. They consistently pay out dividends, which gives their investors a nice, steady stream of income. But on the other side, you have the reinvestment strategy. This is common with younger, high-growth companies. They hang on to their profits and plow that money back into the business to fund research, build new factories, and hopefully make the whole company and therefore each share a lot more valuable over time.
This brings us to what is maybe one of the most misunderstood concepts in all of finance. And that's the absolutely crucial difference between how a company raises money and what happens when investors just trade stocks with each other.
Okay, here is the key distinction you have got to remember. When a company needs to raise cash, it conducts a stock issuance. This is often called an IPO, or initial public offering. It creates brand new shares and sells them. That money goes directly from investors into the company's bank account. That's the primary market. Now, all that trading you hear about on the news every day, that's the secondary market. That's just investors buying and selling existing shares from each other. The money goes from one investor's pocket to another's. The company itself doesn't see a single cent from that transaction.
All right, let's zoom out and put all these pieces together. What are the big key takeaways from all of this? So when you think about it, this entire system is just a brilliant solution to that original problem. It uses stocks to chop up ownership into tiny, sellable pieces. It's supercharged by the legal shield of limited liability, which protects people and encourages them to invest. It's all managed by a clear, democratic structure of shareholders, a board, and a CEO. And the whole thing is fueled by two totally different markets, one for the company to raise money and another for investors to trade their ownership.
And this incredible, powerful machine we've built leads to a huge debate that we are still having today. We've established that a corporation is legally its own person, separate from its owners. But that raises a fundamental question. Who or what is this powerful entity ultimately responsible to? Is its one and only goal to maximize profit for its shareholders, no matter the cost? Or, as a legal person living in our society, does it have a deeper responsibility to its employees, its customers, and to the world at large? That is the billion-dollar question at the very heart of capitalism today. Something to think about. Thanks for watching.